So, this is Team Triwool from Porto, Polytechnic in Portugal and Politecnico di Milano in Italy. Welcome on stage.
Do you know where your clothes come from? Do you know how your clothes were made? And do you know their environmental footprint? Well, if you're like me, you don't know, but that concerns us. The textile industry is the second most pollutant industry in the world, second only to oil and gas. And on average, we're going to use a garment 7 times in our lives before we throw it away, and only 5% of these garments are being returned to be recycled. Triwool, our corporate partner, is an international circular knit garment producer focused on transparency and sustainability as their main values, and they're trying to bring the industry onto a new light.
Triwool came to us and gave us a challenge. How do we move the industry towards a place where it's more traceable? And of course, the question is, what is traceability? And think of it as the ability to tell a full story of a garment from the very beginning to the very end. It sounds pretty easy, right? So why is it not happening today? Let's first start with the suppliers and the manufacturers that make our clothes. Today, they lack the right tools and the right infrastructure to provide up-to-date information about the sustainability and production metrics. In addition, the retail brands, they lack the visibility as to what happens to the garments once these garments have been sold to the customer. And for the end customers, like all of us here, we don't really have any insight as to how our clothes were made, what the environmental footprint is of the clothes we're buying. And then finally, the recycling and the sorting companies that deal with the clothes afterwards, they still rely heavily on manual labor, and the production and the recycling processes that they use are still pretty outdated.
With this in mind, we present to you InTrace, an integrated system of a digital platform together with a digital tag embedded inside the garments. And this tag, bear in mind, is invisible, so it doesn't affect fashion choices. Now, our solution brings all stakeholders together in the supply chain, including the customer, so that the customer and the stakeholders can make better data-driven decisions, increasing transparency in the industry, and finally helping the textile industry to close the loop. So let's have a sneak peek. Let's imagine a sustainable future where clothes never become waste. A moment where 100% of clothes will be recycled and designs will be made so that materials can be used again and again and again. Companies will be fully traceable and improve their performance as they'll now know each step of the production's environmental impact. They will then pass on this information onto their products, so that you can know with a simple phone scan what is the footprint of your garment and who are the parties involved. With information accessible like never before, you will be in full control of what you are wearing. And what if you want to give your garments up for recycling? InTrace will provide the closest location you can go, so that together we stop the waste flow towards landfill. With all available information, sorting and recycling will be made much easier and faster, turning used clothes into new ones. Build a sustainable future with InTrace.
We believe, however, that to really crack the traceability challenge, we need to involve all of the stakeholders, not just the end user, else it just won't work. So let me remind you as to what the key benefits are for the different stakeholders across the supply chain. For the suppliers and the manufacturers that produce our garments, the digital platform provides convenience. All order and supplier-related information, including information about certificates and audits, will now be centralized in one place. Additionally, it gives an opportunity for performance improvement. Now suppliers will be able to tell what their production's impact is in terms of CO2 and water consumption, and then using that knowledge, they can improve their operations further. For the retail brands, the benefits include the digital platform and the tag that will help them communicate with their customers better. So for the customer, they can then use the tag as a marketing tool where they can tell the story of a garment. And in addition to that, the tag can help them close the loop, meaning that they will now facilitate and trace the use and disposal of clothes after those are sold to the customers. For the end users here, so for all of us, the tag will allow us to get access to previously inaccessible information. It will give us more awareness and help us make better purchasing decisions. So through a very simple scan of the tag with your phone, you will now be able to tell where the garment has come from and how it was produced and what the environmental impact of the garment is. And in addition, it will give you an opportunity to understand where you can then dispose of it and what the closest recycling facilities are. And then finally, for the recycling companies, once the clothes are returned to their facilities, using the tag, they will be able to retrieve key data, for example, the fiber and the chemical composition of the garment, in order to make recycling more efficient. And so what now is manual can soon be automated. We really believe that our solution builds out a whole ecosystem towards a more traceable and sustainable future. And we would absolutely love to tell you more if you come and visit us at our stand after the presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Excellent presentation. Any questions in the audience? Right here in the front.
Thank you. Yeah, great presentation, first of all. And so I was wondering, have you talked, because I mean, it sounds like you would use life cycle assessment data probably, and that's quite a difficult field and quite complex. Have you talked to the different stakeholders if that's actually realizable, or was your challenge mainly focused on doing the design and finding out what the user wants to see, what kind of information?
So you're completely right. The life cycle data that you're talking about, sometimes it's quite tricky to get. The way that it works today is that most of that data is not real time. And in the fashion industry today, it's obtained through the audits and the certifications that a lot of the different stakeholders are subject to in order to be able to work with the big retail brands. So today, that data can come from the, let's say, physical manual audits that are done on an annual or biannual basis. And then in the future, what we would imagine, as the IoT industry continues to develop and there are more and more sensors that are coming onto the market, that we would be able to actually integrate those sensors into our solution and feed a lot of that data in a real-time form into the platform.
Excellent. Other questions? Okay, one in the back. Tell me if I miss a hand. I can't fully see.
About the companies that sell clothes, do you think they want this technology? Because a lot of companies, they go for low cost and they produce it the most harmful ways. So they should be the ones that actually, they are the ones that will not profit from this because they would have to change their methods. So is there a plan for you to kind of force them to do it in a way?
We're not planning to force anybody, but that's true that it's a very, it's one of those challenges that a solution like that might face. However, what's happening today in the fashion industry is that there is growing consumer pressure, even on the fast fashion companies and also on the more luxury retailers, to be able to provide sustainable options and to be able to actually prove the claims that a lot of these companies are starting to make. And even if you look at companies such as H&M, you will see if you go into their store, they have more and more sustainable lines there. And so as the big players on the market are starting to introduce these lines, you will see other companies trying to catch up as well. And so we believe that through the different benefits that we can create for the different stakeholders involved, and potentially increasing government regulation that might come online in the very near future regarding waste recuperation, this is something that the companies will want to implement as well.
What about the tag? Is it something you can reuse, or is it something you can recycle also?
Good question. The industry, some companies in the industry are already using this garment, this technology, and trying to test it in order to get into the market. And they are very, very cheap, and they will not be reused as they're sewn into the garments. They can be just destroyed, and the impact is very, very little.
Okay, excellent. So this, by the way, you're highlighting really well my favorite part, because I see these year after year, but then the meat is in the answers. Like when you ask questions and then they answer, that's where you hear that these are not hackathons, these are not, 1 week projects. They know what they're talking about. So really nice example, well answered. Thank you so much. Great project.